Alright, we are almost to the finish line. Welcome back to the Insight LSAT Mini LSAT Prep course. This is lesson 7, and today we're going to be talking about the writing section. That there is a picture of the Tanner family, who are trying to figure out which vacation to go on, but we will get back to them shortly. First, an overview of the section. Just like all the others, the writing section is going to be 35 minutes long. You're going to be presented with a prompt, and in that prompt there are going to be 2 proposals of some sort. In our sample, there are going to be 2 proposals for vacations for the Tanners to go on. And there's also going to be 2 criteria, and these are the criteria you're going to use to assess the 2 proposals. So in our sample, we're going to have 2 things that are most important to the Tanners when choosing a vacation, and we're going to want to argue why one proposal better meets those criteria than does the other proposal. In the writing section, you're going to be given scratch paper right in your LSAT test booklet, and you're going to want to use that before you start writing to plan out your argument, plan out what you want to say, and just do some note taking before you start writing your essay on the other space that's provided. And an important point about this section, it's unscored. And that doesn't mean that no one's ever going to see it, and it doesn't mean that it's not important at all. It just means that it doesn't contribute to the numerical score from 120 to 180. Now, law schools will use your writing section for different reasons. Some take it pretty seriously, some are not that concerned with it. But generally speaking, they want to make sure that your writing ability makes sense given your LSAT score. So if you have a super high score, but you can't write an essay, they're going to wonder what's going on there. They're also going to wonder if you took the test or if you had somebody take it for you. But generally speaking, they want to make sure that the person who they're going to admit to their law school knows how to write, knows how to communicate, and knows how to structure an argument. That's a lot of what you're going to be doing in law school, is structuring arguments, giving support for your points. Can you do this? That's what the LSAT writing section's about. Because the writing section isn't scored, you're not going to want to spend a crazy amount of time preparing for it. But that doesn't mean you should blow it off either. You want to have a basic idea of how you're going to approach this section. It's always going to kind of be the same. There'll be a prompt, it'll have 2 proposals, it'll have 2 criteria. What exactly those proposals are, what exactly those criteria are, those things will change, but your basic approach to the writing section should be applicable to whatever comes up. It's always going to look kind of the same. So in this lesson, we're going to give you a formula that you can use. It's 3 steps, and there's an outline for the actual essay that you'll end up writing. And you're free to depart from this. You're free to kind of figure out how you want to do the writing section. But this works. This will get you a very well-structured, convincing argument, and it'll be, I think, more than enough to really do well on the writing section. You learn this formula, or learn something of your own, do a few writing samples from prep tests, and just kind of put this one away. You really should be spending more time on the other sections. But anyway, here we go. Here is an LSAT writing formula that will work, that will get you a great essay. The first step is you're going to run through the prompt and just read and figure out what's going on there, which brings us to the second step. You can pick whichever proposal you like best. It really does not matter. The prompt is designed for both of the proposals to be pretty much equal. It's not trying to lead you to one or the other. There's going to be good things about one proposal and bad things about it. There's going to be good things about the other proposal and bad things about that one. So it really does not matter. Just go with whichever proposal strikes you as the more convincing right off the bat, because then you're going to write a more convincing essay about it because you kind of believe it. Okay, once you've picked your proposal, you're going to write a brief essay according to this outline. You're going to have 6 paragraphs. The first paragraph will have a 1 to 2 sentence introduction. Don't spend a lot of time on that. It's just a quick introduction to what the paper's about and which proposal you're going to choose. And again, we're going to go through a sample essay, so don't worry so much about knowing what I mean here by each of these points. You'll see it in action. But yeah, so you start with your first paragraph, a 1 to 2 sentence introduction. In the second paragraph, which is going to be your largest, you're going to want to lay out the merits of the proposal that you chose. And you're going to really want to lay it out there, right? You're going to want to tell them all the great things about your proposal and why it's definitely the way to go. In the third paragraph, you're going to admit that your proposal isn't perfect. Remember I said that both proposals have good things and bad things about them. A more convincing argument is one that recognizes this fact. So in the third paragraph, you're going to admit that it's not a completely perfect proposal, and you want to anticipate what somebody who would choose the other proposal is going to say about your proposal. Once you anticipate these objections, you want to kind of respond to them, right? Yeah, there's a couple things that are wrong with my proposal, but they're not that bad, and they the merits more than make up for them. In the fourth paragraph, you want to acknowledge that there are also merits of the other proposal. Remember, you're trying to be pretty fair here while still being convincing. So you acknowledge that there are merits on the other proposal, but just criticize these merits. Yeah, there's something good about that other proposal, but it's really not that good. And this other consideration, when you think about it, it means that merit's really, not all we thought it was anyway. Right? And furthermore, it's not as good as my proposal, right? So you want to criticize both comparatively and absolutely. In the fifth paragraph, you're really going to lay it on that unchosen proposal. Heavy, heavy criticisms. This is kind of like the counterpart to paragraph 2, where you were laying on the praise for your proposal. Here you just want to say, just after you've said, yeah, there's a couple good things about this proposal, there are a ton of bad things about this proposal, and they're really bad. And that's kind of how you'll finish up the paper, and you'll in paragraph 6 you'll just have a quick conclusion summarizing your argument, restating your position, and being done with it. In case you're one of those people who learns better with pictures and would prefer to see this in more of a visual way, here's another way of looking at this outline. So you have these two proposals, right? You have your chosen proposal and you have your unchosen proposal. And there's good things and bad things about both of them, right? So now here on the right we have our outline, the 6 paragraphs. Your short introduction, your short conclusion. In paragraph 2, you're going to lay on all the good things about your chosen proposal. In paragraph 3, you acknowledge there are some bad things, but you make up for them. In paragraph 4, there are some good things about the proposal I didn't choose. But remember that there are really good things about mine. They're better than the good things about the other one. And those good things from the unchosen proposal, they're not that good anyway. And then paragraph 5, and by the way, there are a lot of bad things about the proposal I didn't choose. Paragraph 6, the conclusion, choose my proposal. Now that you understand the formula, let's go ahead and apply it to a sample prompt. Now the subject matter of this prompt is that Tanner family that we saw at the beginning of the lesson, and we're going to try to figure out which vacation they're going to go on. But structurally, this prompt is pretty much exactly the same as all of the other writing prompts. And it is exactly the same as the writing prompt that you're going to see when you take the LSAT. You'll notice it starts with a background information, it's got 2 criteria, and then it's got 2 proposals that you're supposed to choose one of. But now let's take a look at it. Mr. and Mrs. Tanner live in a large city and are planning a week-long vacation to go on during their children's winter break from school. They've narrowed their choices down to 2 destinations. Using the facts below, write an essay in which you argue for choosing one destination over the other based on the following 2 criteria. 1. The Tanners want their children's vacation to involve exposure to new experiences. 2. The Tanners want their children's vacation to be relaxing enough that they are well rested for the second half of the school year. And then we move on to our proposals. Destination A is a campground located an hour drive from the Tanners' home. There's a local environmental conservation office there that runs educational programs about local ecosystems, conservation, and basic outdoors survival skills. The Tanners would sleep in small tents and there's no running water on site. Available activities at the campground include kayaking, hiking, archery, fishing, and swimming. The Tanner children have never been camping. And Destination B. Destination B is the capital city of a bordering country to which the children have never been. The family would need to take a 3-hour flight to reach this destination, and the Tanners would stay in a 4-star hotel. The city is known for having an exceptional variety of museums, many of which are focused on unusual topics. There's also a historical center with a number of widely visited tourist sites. Feel free to pause the video at this point and take a closer look at this sample prompt or read it again to yourself. But you're going to notice that if you consider the two criteria that the Tanners are concerned with, both destination A and B are, you know, they both have merits and they both have drawbacks. And like I said before, this is a feature of these prompts that you're going to see. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So if you look at destination A and we think about exposure to new experiences, for instance, well, the Tanner children have never been camping, so the whole thing's kind of new. But it's only an hour drive from their home, so it's not as new of an experience perhaps as going to a different country. If we think about relaxing, well, there's nature, and nature is super relaxing, but they're going to be in small tents and there's no running water. How about the capital city? Thinking about relaxing, well, they're in a four-star hotel, but it's a city, and cities are loud and noisy. New experiences, well, there's these weird museums, there's a historical center, and the whole city is a place that the Tanner children have never been. But if you remember from the background information, the Tanner children live in a large city, so the whole thing is not that different. You should see, just kind of looking through this, that you can make an argument for either proposal, and you're going to have to recognize that the other proposal's got some things going for it, and yours, whichever one you choose, is not entirely perfect. That being said, in this lesson I'm actually going to go through writing an entire essay, a sample essay for you, based on this prompt, and I'm going to choose the campground proposal, just because I like camping and being outdoors, and like I said, one is no better really than the other. Now is actually a really great time for you to pause the video and do the exercise that I'm about to show you. So what I've got here is a simulation of our scratch paper, and I've just drawn out some little icons here to represent the merits of the proposal I'm choosing, the campground, the drawbacks of the proposal I'm choosing, the merits of the proposal I'm not choosing, and the drawbacks of the proposal that I'm not choosing. So go ahead and pause the video and grab yourself some scratch paper and put something similar on it, right? This kind of setup, and then just list considerations in each of these columns. It'll help you in structuring the rest of the essay. All right, I hope you have had a chance to do this yourself. It'll really be helpful if you follow along in an active way. But let's see what I have. For the merits of the chosen proposal, and again, I'm thinking throughout about the criteria, right? It's got to be relaxing, and it's got to be involving new experiences. So first one, the Tanner children have never been camping before, and that means it's a new experience, right? Furthermore, camping is very different than city living, right? So we've got some new experiences going on here. The conservation stuff, that's going to be a new experience. They're not going to be exposed to that at home. Same with the survival skills. All these programs that are being put on at the campground, these are new things for them. And the campground activities, the kayaking, the fishing, etc., those are all things that they can't really be done in a city, and therefore they're new experiences for the children. Finally, thinking about the other criteria, I'm just going to argue that being in nature is really relaxing, and there's a lot of benefit to that. Moving on to the drawbacks of my proposal. And here you're going to notice that I have parentheses after each of these considerations, and those are responses to these drawbacks, right? I'm already trying to think about what I'm going to say in response to these little mini objections. All right, so the first one is that sleeping in tents, having no water, no running water, these are not the most relaxing things I can imagine. Right, but my response to that sort of objection is going to be, but the restorative power of nature is so strong that these children, it doesn't really matter if they're not sleeping in comfy beds and they have faucets and stuff, that the restorative power of nature is strong enough to compensate for that. Second one, this campground is really close to where the Tanners live. It's only like an hour drive away. So maybe you can say that that's not as new of an experience as moving to, or as traveling to a faraway destination, right, a different country. And in response to that, I'm going to say that even though the campground isn't too far distance-wise, it's a very different type of experience, right? And because of that, it's really a new experience in a very important way. Finally, maybe someone's just going to argue that that camping in general is not that unique of an experience. It's something that people do all the time, and it's really not that imaginative of a way to spend your vacation. But my response to that is just, camping's really cool. It doesn't matter that it's been done before. It's something that the children haven't done before, and it's a unique and interesting experience that they'll benefit from. All right, now we've got to move on to the merits of the proposal I didn't choose, the capital city of the foreign country. And again, I'm going to have parentheses because I'm thinking about how I'm going to defeat these merits, right? I have a purpose or I'm thinking really about how I'm going to approach this information. And this information is going to be acknowledgement, right? There is something good about this other proposal, but I already want to start thinking about how I'm going to undermine these merits. All right, so the first one is it's a new country. And because it's a new country, that's a new experience. And my response is going to be, well, it may be a new country, but it's still a city. And the Tanners are from a city. That's not that much of a new experience. Second one, they're going to be in a nice hotel, nice, comfy 4-star hotel, and that's really relaxing. But cities are really noisy and they're busy and they're not that relaxing. So even though they're staying in a hotel, it's going to be all the hustle and bustle. It's not going to be that relaxing of a vacation. And finally, there were all those museums on unusual topics. There's the historical center. All this stuff is new experiences, right? But again, the children have museums and they have historical sites in their own city. It may be, different subject matter, but it's still kind of the same thing. That's not as unique as going camping. And finally, the drawbacks of the proposal that I didn't choose. And the first one is that international travel in general is not relaxing. It's hectic. They have to bring their passports and they have to go on a flight, go through customs, blah, 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 blah. This is not a relaxing experience. Second, again, it's just another city experience. That's not new enough, especially when you compare it to camping. They're already from a city. Going to another one is it's just not as unique as going camping. And finally, I'm going to argue that the pace of the trip is going to be just too quick for it to be relaxing. Sometimes you go on a vacation and you do all these things, and then you come back and you're like, all right, I want a vacation from that vacation. That's what I'm going to say these children are going to want, and they're not going to be relaxed. They're not going to be ready for school. They're going to be all tired. Now you can go ahead and compare what you wrote on your scratch paper to what I've got here. Have you considered many of the same things that I have considered? Maybe you went in some different directions. It's just really important that you have something listed under each of these columns because, as you can see here, there are things to list under these columns, right? And having this information up front before you start writing is going to allow you to have some resources to bring to bear on the essay, right? It's going to have some stuff that you can just kind of plug into our formula and come out with an essay. All right, so at this point, again, you might want to pause the video because now I'm going to go on and start with my first paragraph and show you how I went about writing this essay using this information from this scratch paper. So if you want to, and I really suggest it, pause the video now and give yourself maybe 30 minutes or so and write this essay. Use your considerations on the scratch paper and write yourself the 6-paragraph essay using the formula we talked about before and using the information on this scratch paper and see what you come up with. But now we're going to go on to mine. All right, we start with paragraph 1, that short 2-sentence introduction that I talked about. And here's what I've got. Of the 2 options available to them, the Tanners should choose to take their children on a relaxing but still very enriching first camping trip. The deep restorative power of nature will better prepare them for the second half of the school year than will a busy international vacation, and there are newer experiences available camping than there are visiting just another city. All right, let's break this down real fast. It's nothing special, right? We're not trying to go for a Pulitzer Prize when we write this paper. We are just going to get the basics down, and we're going to make sure that our writing is well structured. I've got 2 sentences here. The first one just says the main point of my paper, which is that I've chosen a proposal, and the Tanners should go with it. And I say a little bit about, I start to bring in the the criteria here, right? It's a relaxing but still very enriching first camping experience. So I'm trying to gesture at the relaxing criteria and the experience criteria. And then I say a little bit in the second sentence about what I'm going to write about, really, the considerations that I've highlighted in my paper. Right, and these are all coming from the scratch paper from before. So I mentioned the deep restorative power of nature, again, gesturing to the relaxing criteria, and I compare it to a busy international vacation. And the second one, there are newer experiences available camping than there are just visiting another city, right? So already in this paragraph, I've told you which proposal I'm going to choose, and I've kind of given you an idea of where I'm going to go with this. So it's a good structure. Compare it to your own and see which one you like better. Were you able to accomplish the same amount in just 2 sentences? Moving on to the second paragraph, the merits of the chosen proposal. This paragraph is going to be the largest one, and that's because, frankly, it's the most important one, right? This is a paper or a short essay about why you should choose my proposal. And in an argument for why you should choose my proposal, I better have a lot of good things about my proposal. The rest of the essay will support this idea, but this is really the main point. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The Tanners should take this opportunity to introduce their children to the great outdoors with a family camping trip. Since the family lives in the city, almost everything the children do while camping will be a new and exciting experience for them. Most of the campground activities, kayaking, fishing, etc., are not readily available to them when they're home. Additionally, the programs facilitated by the Conservation Office will give the children a chance to learn about nature in an engaging and hands-on manner. This is especially important given that their generation will have the difficult role of protecting global natural resources at a time when they are especially threatened. But the camping trip is not just an opportunity to experience new things. Everybody knows how relaxing time spent in nature can be, especially for people who live in the city. Relaxing by the water, hiking through the forest, and spending quality family time around a campfire will rejuvenate the children, getting them ready to start the second half of the school year at their best. Alright, let's break this down so that you guys can see the structure that is underlying this paragraph. It's fairly simple and it's good to copy. The first sentence is just an introduction sentence that lets you kind of know that we're talking about the merits of this proposal. It just says they should go on this vacation to the great outdoors, right? And the rest of that's going to support that idea. The rest of the paragraph is going to support the idea introduced in the topic sentence. And right from there, I jump into the merits of the proposal that are relevant to the new and exciting experience criterion, right? That's everything from the fact that it's camping and they live in a city, to the activities, the programs, and in the second half of the paragraph, I'm dealing with the merits that are relevant to the relaxing criterion. So I've got this idea about just everybody knows how relaxing time spent in nature can be, especially for people who live in the city. And then I paint little pictures of stuff that they might be doing and try to make it seem relaxing. This sentence here, when I say the stuff about their generation, this is just kind of, it's not an idea that was in the scratch paper, but it's just something that came to me as I was writing it. You know, if you're going through writing this and you can think of any reasons why your merits are especially important, some kind of other thoughts about those merits, not simply the fact that they're good things, but they're good things for another reason, feel free to throw those in there too if they come to you. But take note here of the simple structure. Topic sentence, criteria 1 merits, criteria 2 merits, the end. Very simple. Alright, next paragraph. This is where I'm going to anticipate some objections to my argument, right? I'm going to anticipate what somebody else might say in response to my argument if they wanted the other proposal. And I'm going to try to head them off, right? I'm going to try to anticipate them and already respond to them. It's a powerful argumentative move. So let's take a look. Somebody could argue that roughing it in nature will not leave the children rested, but this consideration should not worry the Tanners. Children do not need comfortable beds and other amenities to feel restored. The Tanner children will be energized by the fun they have exploring nature, and simply being outdoors breathing fresh air will do much good for them. If someone instead were to object that the campground is too close to their home or not unique enough of a trip to really provide the children with a new experience, this too should not worry the Tanners. Even though the campground is not very far from where the children live, the difference between city life and the outdoors is an extremely significant contrast. The Tanner children have never been camping before, and there is no real substitute for camping available in city life. That's why families all around the world still go on regular camping trips when there exists more modern forms of entertainment. Camping is a special activity, and the Tanner children will gain much from it. Again, breaking down the structure, I jump right into one of the objections, and you can use this kind of sentence or this kind of like fake objector. There's someone who hasn't actually said anything yet, but you just kind of you pretend that somebody has, right? Somebody could argue that blah blah blah, and you write the objection, but don't worry about it, and then you say why. Again, if someone instead were to object blah 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 blah, they shouldn't worry about that either, and here's why. So the structure here is raise an objection, respond to it, raise an objection, respond to it, and then finish off on a positive note about your proposal. Paragraph 4 is where we're going to switch gears and stop talking as much about our chosen proposal and move on over to the other one. We've already made a really good case for our chosen proposal. We've laid out the merits for it, and we've also anticipated objections to it. But to make this an even more powerful argument, we want to not just argue for our proposal, but argue against the other one, and that's what we're going to start doing here. Let's take a look. Of course, there are merits to the Tanner's other option, going to the foreign capital, but these are not significant enough to make it the better choice overall. It is true that being in a foreign country makes the city seem like an exciting opportunity for new experiences, but the Tanners already live in a city. The differences between two cities, even in different countries, are never as significant as the differences between the city and the outdoors, so there are newer experiences to be had camping. The Tanner's home city already has museums and historical sites too, so while visiting these in the new city would be interesting, the experiences just would not be all that new. And while it might be nice to stay in a comfortable hotel for a week, the comforts provided cannot make up for the noise and pollution of city living. Far more restorative would be a quiet and peaceful journey into nature. Okay, again, focusing on structure. I switch gears and I acknowledge that there are merits. I explain here in this topic sentence that I'm now moving over to talking about the other proposal. But these are not significant enough to make it the better choice overall. That's what this paragraph's about. There's some merits, but they're not good enough. And the rest of the paragraph has the structure of acknowledgement of merits and undermining of merits. Right? It is true that being in a foreign country makes the city seem like an exciting opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But the Tanners already live in a city. Over here. While visiting these in the new city would be interesting, again, acknowledgement of the merit, the experiences just would not be all that new. Undermining of the merit. Here we go again, acknowledging, and while it might be nice to stay in a comfortable hotel for a week, undermining, the comforts provided cannot make up for the noise and pollution of city living. Right? So acknowledge a merit, undermine a merit, and we move on. Next paragraph, we're going to talk about the drawbacks of the proposal that we didn't choose. Let's jump right into it. In addition to having inferior merits compared with the camping option, the foreign city option also has serious drawbacks the Tanners would be wise to consider. International travel is very hectic, and the 3-hour flight plus all of the airport navigation could be draining for both parents and fidgety children. The pace of the trip will probably be very fast too, since the merits of the city proposal mostly involve traveling around a city visiting sites. The whole family could very well want a vacation from the vacation once they're finished, but instead they would be going back to their home in the city and more fast-paced living. Tiring out the children is no way to get them ready for school, and running the risk is not worth the benefits, because as mentioned already, the experiences the children will have will not be nearly as new to them as will a trip into the outdoors. Thinking about structure, I remember what the last paragraph was about. It was about the merits of the unchosen proposal. So my topic sentence moves. It's a transition sentence. In addition to having inferior merits, right, that's the stuff that was from the paragraph before, and this paragraph, the foreign city option also has serious drawbacks that Tanners would be wise to consider. And then, again, I just list them, right? Kind of like paragraph 2, when I listed the merits of my proposal. In paragraph 5, I'm just listing the drawbacks of the unchosen proposal and saying a little bit more about them, right? So that's where I have the international travel, the flight, the fast pace of the trip, the vacation from the vacation, and blah blah blah. And I finish it off by saying that this is no way to get them ready for school, and I mention again the relaxation criteria and the experience criteria. Those are coming into it. Okay, last paragraph, the conclusion. This is more or less the same as the introduction. I'm just gonna have two sentences, kind of summing it up, restating my my main point. The camping trip is clearly the better option for the Tanners, both absolutely and comparatively, considering the criteria that are important to them. Going camping will provide the children with very new and valuable experiences, and getting some fresh air and activity in nature will best prepare them for success when the children return to school. Very simple. The first sentence just restates my main point that we should choose this proposal over the other one, given the criteria. And the second one just kind of restates the main merits of the proposal. It will give them new and valuable experiences. They'll be all refreshed and restored from being in nature, and they are ready to go back for school and be very successful. And after all, don't we want to get some fresh air for this kid? I think it looks like he needs it. Alright, so there you have it. 6 paragraphs following the formula. Even the paragraphs are pretty formulaic. So there's no need to be all that creative here. Like I said, the purpose of the writing section is just to demonstrate that you can lay out a well-structured argument. And this formula will help you do that. Feel free to go back and revisit parts of this lesson. You can go back and look at the various paragraphs. You can look at the scratch paper and compare it to your own and see how you did. And now, though, we'll talk about takeaways from this lesson, things to think about going forward when you are doing a modest amount of preparation for the writing section. First up, invest your time up front. That scratch paper wasn't a waste of time, right? It gave us the resources to plug into the rest of the formula. So a little bit of time ahead, thinking about the merits and drawbacks, allowed us just to use the formula, plug it right in there, and save time not doing that thinking in the middle of our writing process, right? If you're trying to figure out the merits and the drawbacks in the middle of writing the thing, you're going to end up with a very unorganized paper, trust me. So invest a little bit of time up front, get your structure ready, and then start writing. Within the paragraphs and throughout the paper, make sure you're staying organized. Use good transitions and topic sentences. These are the first or maybe the last sentence of the paragraph, definitely the first, maybe also the last. And these are where you kind of direct your reader to the next point. You tell the reader, okay, we just talked about the merits of my proposal. Now we're going to talk about the drawbacks of my proposal. These are kind of like signposts for the reader. They help the reader to understand where we're moving in the argument. Next, it's important to be reasonable in the paper so that you seem credible, right? Remember that both of the proposals they're okay. They're pretty much equal. So even though you're going to argue for one of them, don't be so unfair about it that it actually ends up undermining your argument because it seems like you're just being unrealistic. When you're writing, stay rooted in the criteria, and that's especially when you're doing your prep work up front on the scratch paper, right? Don't just start writing random nice things about one of the proposals or these merits that you're just coming up with. The prompt gives you criteria that are used to assess the proposals. So make sure that you're not only saying good things about these proposals, but you're saying good things that are relevant to those criteria. And try to use all the considerations that are provided. and you can stretch a little bit, right? So in that second paragraph, I was using details from the prompt. I was talking about the conservation programs, but I stretched a little bit when I said the thing about their generation having to protect global natural resources. It's just a little bit of a stretch from what's in the prompt, but I don't think it's an unreasonable one, right? But when you're going through that prompt, there's a lot of details about each of the proposals, and it's good to try to use all of them if you can. And finally, like I said before, this is an unscored section. It doesn't mean it's completely unimportant, but it does mean that you should be wise about how much time you spend preparing for the section relative to the amount of time that you're spending on the other sections. Um, by a long shot, you should spend the least amount of time preparing for the writing section, and like I said, just do a few of the prompts that are in the prep tests. Get comfortable with the formula, get comfortable with the process, and when you get there on test day, just do exactly what you've practiced. Just lay out that formula. You're going to be tired. You're going to want to just have something ready to go. All right, that is it for the writing section. Next up is lesson 8. It's entitled Beyond the Course, Beyond the Test. And here I'm going to explain what you should do in your preparation work after this course, right? How do we move from what we've learned in the course to, a more comprehensive preparation schedule? How do we get test ready from here? And also just laying out some considerations about why there are things actually outside of just doing practice tests that will really help you to be really ready for the LSAT. So that's all covered in lesson 8. I will see you there.